I've spent my entire life looking at my other half. Emma and I were born on the same day, at the same hospital, to the same parents. We shared everything: bedrooms, clothes, friends, secrets. People couldn't tell us apart. Our own grandparents mixed us up until we were teenagers. We had the same light brown hair, the same green eyes, the same crooked smile. Everyone said we were like looking in a mirror. On our 25th birthday, Emma bought us matching DNA test kits as a joke. "Let's see if we're really 100% identical or if you got all the good genes," she'd laughed, holding up the ancestry trace boxes. I rolled my eyes but agreed. We'd always been curious about our ancestry anyway. Mom said our family came from Ireland and Italy, but she'd never been specific about the details. So that night, after cake and wine, we each spit into our tubes and sealed them up. 6 weeks, the instructions said. 6 weeks until we'd see our genetic makeup laid out in percentages and pie charts. I forgot about the test completely until my phone pinged with an email 8 weeks later. "Your ancestry trace results are ready." I was at work, sitting in my cubicle during lunch, when I opened the email and clicked through to my results. The ancestry breakdown loaded first: 48% Italian, 31% Irish, 12% Eastern European, 9% other. Pretty much what I'd expected based on family stories. Then I scrolled down to the DNA relative section, curious to see if any distant cousins had tested. The first match made my heart skip. Emma Wilson, close family match, estimated relationship, close friend or distant cousin. Shared DNA, 0.8%. I stared at the screen, certain there'd been some kind of mistake. Close friend? Distant cousin? We were identical twins. We should share nearly 100% of our DNA. I refreshed the page 3 times. The results didn't change. My hands started shaking. I called Emma immediately, my voice coming out higher and tighter than normal. "Did you get your results yet?" She hadn't, but heard the panic in my tone and logged in while we were on the phone. I listened to her breathing, heard her sharp intake of breath, knew the exact moment she saw what I'd seen. "This has to be wrong," she said finally. "The lab messed up. We need to call them." We spent the next hour on hold with Ancestry Trace customer service, getting transferred from person to person, everyone insisting their results were accurate to within a fraction of a percent. "There's no error," the final representative said with infuriating calm. "If you're showing as sharing 0.8% DNA, you're genetically distant relatives at best. Not siblings, not twins." When I hung up, Emma was already at my apartment door. She'd driven straight over, still in her nursing scrubs from her shift at the hospital. We sat on my couch, both of us crying, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. "Maybe we're fraternal twins who just happen to look really similar?" Emma suggested, but we both knew that was impossible. Fraternal twins share 50% of their DNA, same as regular siblings. Not 0.8%. Maybe Mom had an affair and one of us has a different dad? I offered, but that didn't explain the low DNA match either. Half-siblings share 25%. We'd taken biology in college. We knew enough to understand that 0.8% meant we weren't sisters at all. We were basically strangers who happened to look alike. The implications were too huge, too impossible to process. If we weren't sisters, then who were we? That night, we decided we had to tell our parents. Mom and Dad lived an hour away in the same house where we'd grown up. We drove there in silence, neither of us knowing what to say or how to say it. Mom opened the door with her usual bright smile, but it faded fast when she saw our faces. "What's wrong? What happened?" We all sat in the living room, the same room where we'd opened Christmas presents and watched movies and had family game nights for 25 years. Dad muted the television and turned to face us. Emma pulled out her phone and showed them the DNA results. I watched my parents' faces as they read, watched confusion turn to disbelief turn to something that looked like horror. "This can't be right," Mom whispered, her face going pale. "You're identical twins. You were born 2 minutes apart. I was there. I held both of you." But as she said it, something shifted in her expression. A memory, maybe. She stood up suddenly and went to the hallway closet, digging through boxes until she found what she was looking for. Our baby book, thick with photos and hospital paperwork. She spread the contents across the coffee table with trembling hands. Birth certificates, hospital bracelets, footprints, photographs of 2 tiny babies in the NICU. You were both premature, Mom said slowly, like she was trying to remember something from a long time ago. Born at 34 weeks. You spent 3 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit at Mercy Heights Private Hospital. They had you in separate incubators because you were so small. She picked up a photograph of herself holding 2 infants, one in each arm. The nurses brought you to me for feeding times. You wore little pink hats. Emma's had a yellow flower, Olivia's had a blue flower, so we could tell you apart. Dad leaned forward, studying the photo. Why would they need markers to tell you apart if you were identical? Identical twins look the same from birth. The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Please make sure to like and subscribe, because this story gets absolutely insane. Mom's hands were shaking as she shuffled through more papers. There was an issue at the hospital, she said quietly. About a week after you were born, a nurse came to us very upset. She said there'd been a mix-up during one of the shift changes. 2 sets of twins in the NICU, and somehow the babies got moved between incubators. She said they'd sorted it out, made sure each set of parents had the right babies, but I remember thinking it was strange. She looked up at us, her eyes wet. I never questioned it. You both looked so similar, and the nurse was so sure they'd fixed the mistake. But what if they didn't? What if they gave us the wrong babies and never realized? The room felt like it was tilting. Emma grabbed my hand, squeezing so tight it hurt. Are you saying we might not be your biological children? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad stood up and started pacing, running his hands through his graying hair. Okay, let's think about this logically. If there was a mix-up with 2 sets of twins, then somewhere out there, another couple has been raising our biological daughters. And we've been raising theirs. He stopped, the weight of his words sinking in. But you 2 look identical. How is that possible if you're not related? That was the question none of us could answer. Emma and I had the same face, the same build, the same mannerisms. How could we not share DNA? Unless, Emma said slowly, the mix-up was more complicated than one baby swapped. What if both of us were swapped? What if we each ended up with the wrong family, and by some incredible coincidence, we look similar enough that everyone just assumed we were identical twins? Mom made a sound like she'd been punched. No, that's not possible. I would know my own children. But even as she said it, doubt crept into her voice. I thought about all the times people had commented on our similarities. The same green eyes. The same hair color. The same height. But were those things really that unique? Plenty of people had green eyes and light brown hair. Maybe our similarity wasn't genetics. Maybe it was coincidence, reinforced by 25 years of everyone telling us we were identical, of us styling ourselves the same way, of us unconsciously mimicking each other's expressions and gestures. Maybe we'd become mirrors of each other because that's what everyone expected us to be. We need to get Mom and Dad tested, I said, my practical side kicking in despite the emotional chaos. If you're our biological parents, you'll share 50% DNA with each of us. If you're not. I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. We ordered test kits that night, express shipping. 3 days later, we all swabbed our cheeks and sent the samples to a different company this time, just to be sure. The wait was excruciating. Emma moved into my apartment temporarily, neither of us able to be alone with our thoughts. We'd lie awake at night, talking in the dark like we had as children, trying to make sense of everything. If we're not sisters, what are we? Emma asked one night. I mean, you're still my sister in every way that matters. You know everything about me. You've been there for every important moment of my life. DNA doesn't change that. I wanted to believe her, but something felt broken. Our entire identity had been built on being twins, being 2 halves of one whole. Without that, who was I? Who was she? Were we strangers who'd just been living a lie for 25 years? The results came back 3 weeks later. We gathered at Mom and Dad's house again, all of us sitting in that same living room. This time, we opened the emails together, counting down from 3. The results loaded on all 4 phones simultaneously. Shared DNA between Mom and Emma, 0.2%. Shared DNA between Mom and me, 0.2%. Shared DNA between Dad and Emma, 0.1%. Shared DNA between Dad and me, 0.3%. The numbers were clear and devastating. Neither of us were their biological children. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom started sobbing, deep wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Dad just sat there, staring at his phone screen like if he looked long enough the numbers would change. I felt numb, like I was watching this happen to someone else. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be our life. They gave us the wrong babies, Mom finally choked out. For 25 years, we've been raising someone else's children. And somewhere out there, someone else has been raising ours. The implications crashed over us like waves. Emma and I had biological parents we'd never met. We had a whole genetic history we knew nothing about. Medical histories, ancestral backgrounds, maybe even siblings. Our entire understanding of who we were had been built on a foundation of lies, except no one had been lying. It had just been a terrible, catastrophic mistake. We need to find them, Emma said, her voice hard with determination. Our biological parents. They deserve to know. And we deserve to know where we actually came from. Dad looked up, his face aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. And we need to find our biological daughters. If they're out there, if they're alive, they need to know too. That night, we started making calls. First to Mercy Heights Private Hospital, where we were all born in 1999. The woman who answered was polite but unhelpful. I'm sorry, but we can't release information about other patients due to privacy laws. You'd need to file a formal complaint or legal request. So we called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Morgan, and she specialized in medical malpractice. When we explained the situation, there was a long pause on her end. This is extraordinary, she said finally. I've handled cases of babies switched at birth before, but never 2 sets of twins mixed up simultaneously. The statistical probability alone is staggering. She agreed to take our case and started filing the necessary legal requests to access hospital records from 1999. This is going to take time, she warned. Hospitals are notoriously protective of their records, especially in cases that could imply negligence. If you're as shocked as we were, please hit that like button and subscribe to follow this journey. While Patricia worked on the legal side, Emma and I became obsessed with finding answers. We uploaded our DNA to every genetic database we could find: 23andMe, MyHeritage, FamilyTree DNA, GeneMatch. We were searching for close family matches, for anyone who might be our biological parents or siblings. Days turned into weeks with nothing. Then, 2 months after we'd first gotten our results, I got a notification from 23andMe. New close family match. My heart hammering, I clicked through. The match was labeled as parent/child with 50% shared DNA. The profile name was Jennifer Reeves, age 52, location listed as Portland, Oregon. I screamed for Emma, who came running from the kitchen. We stared at the screen together, barely breathing. I clicked on Jennifer's profile. She had a photo, a woman with light brown hair going gray-green eyes, a familiar crooked smile. She looked like an older version of me. Like an older version of Emma. Oh my God, Emma whispered. Is that your biological mother? I sent Jennifer a message through the platform, my fingers shaking so badly I had to retype it 3 times. Hi Jennifer, we matched as parent/child. This is going to sound insane, but I believe I may have been switched at birth at Mercy Heights Hospital in 1999. I was raised as an identical twin, but my sister and I aren't genetically related. I think there was a mix-up in the NICU. Please contact me if you're willing to talk. I hit send and then immediately called Patricia Morgan to tell her about the match. She was excited but cautious. Don't get your hopes up too much yet. We need to verify everything. But this is an excellent lead. 3 hours later, my phone rang from an unknown Oregon number. My hand hovered over the answer button, terrified of what came next. Emma nodded at me, and I accepted the call. "Hello." A woman's voice, tight with emotion, responded. "Olivia? This is Jennifer Reeves. I think you might be my daughter." We talked for 2 hours that first call. Jennifer and her husband Michael had given birth to twin girls at Mercy Heights Hospital on the same day Emma and I were born, September 15, 1999. Their daughters, Sophie and Grace, had been born premature at 34 weeks, the exact same as us. They'd spent 3 weeks in the same NICU. Jennifer remembered a nurse mentioning a mix-up with the babies, remembered feeling uneasy about it, but like my mom, she trusted the hospital when they said everything had been sorted out. "Sophie and Grace are identical twins," Jennifer said, her voice breaking. "At least, we always thought they were. They look exactly alike. But now I'm wondering if we've been wrong this whole time, just like your parents were wrong." She paused, and I heard her crying on the other end. "You look like me, Olivia. I saw your profile picture. You have my mother's eyes, my smile. I've been staring at your photo for hours, and I just know. You're my daughter." The next step was obvious but terrifying. Emma and I needed to meet Sophie and Grace, and all of us needed to take DNA tests together. Jennifer and Michael agreed immediately, and we scheduled a meeting for the following weekend. They lived in Portland, a 6-hour drive from us. The night before we left, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about these 2 women I'd never met, Sophie and Grace, who might be my biological sister and Emma's biological sister. What would they look like? Would they hate us for disrupting their lives? Would they even believe us? Emma sat on the edge of my bed in the dark. "Are you scared?" she asked. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Terrified. Everything we thought we knew about ourselves is wrong. And now we're about to meet the people who might be our actual family, except they're total strangers. How is that supposed to work? The drive to Portland felt endless. Mom and Dad came with us, needing to meet Jennifer and Michael face to face, needing to confront the reality that they'd been raising someone else's children. We pulled up to a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood at 2 p.m. The front door opened before we even got out of the car. Jennifer Reeves stepped onto the porch, and I heard Mom gasp beside me. Jennifer could have been my mother. The resemblance was undeniable. She had the same facial structure I saw in the mirror every day, the same build, the same way of standing with her weight on one hip. Behind her, 2 young women appeared, and my heart stopped. They were identical to each other. Dark curly hair, brown eyes, olive skin. They looked nothing like Jennifer and Michael. But one of them, the one on the left, looked exactly like my mom. Same face shape, same nose, same everything. Mom started crying before we even reached the porch. We all stood in the driveway in an awkward cluster, no one sure what to do or say. Finally, Michael Reeves stepped forward and extended his hand to my dad. "This is surreal," he said simply. "But I think we need to figure this out together." We went inside and sat in their living room, 8 people brought together by a hospital's catastrophic mistake 25 years ago. Jennifer brought out photo albums, and we compared baby pictures. The evidence was overwhelming. The baby that Mom and Dad had brought home, the one they'd called Emma, looked identical to Jennifer and Michael's wedding photos. Same dark curly hair, same brown eyes. And the baby they'd called Olivia, me, looked like the Reeves family photos, light hair and green eyes. "They switched both babies," Jennifer said, her voice hollow. "Somehow, they mixed up both sets of twins and sent us all home with the wrong children." Sophie and Grace sat together on the couch, holding hands, looking as shell-shocked as Emma and I felt. "This is insane," Sophie said finally. "You're telling me that Grace isn't my biological sister? That one of you is." She looked at me and Emma, trying to find resemblance, trying to make sense of the impossible. "I don't even know which one." That's when Emma stood up and walked over to Sophie. "I think it's me," she said quietly. "You look exactly like my mom, well, the woman who raised me. And Olivia looks like your mom. So I think you and I are biological sisters, and Olivia and Grace are biological sisters." She held out her hand. "I'm Emma. I guess maybe I should have been Grace. Or you should have been Emma. I don't know how this works." Sophie took her hand, tears streaming down her face. I don't know either. But you're right. You look like my mom. Oh God, this is really real, isn't it? We ordered DNA test kits right there, overnight shipping. By Monday, we'd all sent in our samples. The wait for results was torture, but we all knew what they would say. Emma and Sophie would share 50% DNA. Grace and I would share 50% DNA. The four of us would prove that Mercy Heights Hospital had committed the most devastating kind of medical negligence. They'd sent 4 families home with the wrong babies and never realized their mistake. While we waited for the results, we tried to get to know each other. Sophie worked as a teacher. Grace was studying to be a veterinarian. They'd grown up in Portland, gone to the same schools Emma and I had gone to, but on the opposite side of the country. They liked different music than us, different foods, different everything. Yet they were our biological sisters. The people we should have grown up with. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. You need to hear how this ends.